Good afternoon. Welcome back to what will be our final installment of The Old Man in the Sea. When we left off, the old man had just fought off two hammerhead sharks, and they had taken a quarter of his fish. I shouldn't have gone out so far to fish, he said. Neither for you nor for me. I'm sorry, fish. Now, he said to himself, look to the lashing on the knife and see if it has been cut. Then get your hand in order because there is still more to come. I wish I had a stone for the knife, the old man said, after he had checked the lashing on the oar, but I should have brought a stone. You should have brought many things, he thought, but you did not bring them, old man. Now is no time to think of what you have not done. Think of what you can do with what there is. You give me such good counsel, he said aloud. I'm tired of it. He held the tiller under his arm and soaked both of his hands in the water as the skiff drove forward. God knows how much that last one took, he said, but she's much lighter now. He did not want to think of the mutilated underside of the fish, but he knew that each of the jerking bumps of the shark had been meat torn away, and that the fish now made a trail for all sharks as wide as a highway through the sea. He was a fish to keep a man all winter, he thought. Don't think of that. Just rest and try to get your hands in shape to defend what is left of him. The blood smell from my hands means nothing now with all that scent in the water. Besides, they do not bleed much. There is nothing cut that means anything. The bleeding may keep the left from cramping. What can I think of now, he thought. Nothing. I must think of nothing and wait for the next ones. I wish it had really been a dream, he thought, but who knows? It might have turned out well. The next shark that came was a single shovel nose. He came like a pig to the trough if a pig had a mouth so wide you could put your whole head in it. The old man let him hit the fish and then drove the knife on the oar down into his brain, but the shark jerked backward as he rolled and the knife blade snapped. The old man settled himself to steer. He did not even watch the big shark sinking slowly into the water, showing first life-size, then small, then tiny. That had always fascinated the old man, but he did not even watch it now. I have the gaff now, he said, but it will do no good. I have the two oars and the tiller and the short club. Now they have beaten me, he thought. I am too old to club sharks to death. But I will try it as long as I have the oars and the short club and the tiller. He put his hands in the water again to soak them. It was getting late in the afternoon, and he saw nothing but the sea and the sky. There was more wind in the sky than there had ever been, and soon he hoped that he would see land. You're tired, old man, he said. You're tired inside. The sharks did not hit him again until just before sunset. The old man saw the brown fins coming along the wide trail the fish made in the water. They were not even quartering on the scent. They were headed straight for the skiff, swimming side by side. He jammed the tiller, made the sheet fast, and reached under the stern for the club. It was an oar handle from a broken oar, sawed off to about 2.5 feet in length. He could only use it effectively with one hand because of the grip of the handle, and he took good hold of it with his right hand, flexing his hand on it, and he watched the sharks come. They were both galanos. I must let the first one get a good hold and hit him on the point of the nose or straight across the top of the head, he thought. The two sharks closed together, and as he saw the nearest one him open his jaws and sink them into the silver side of the fish, he raised the club high and brought it down heavy and slamming onto the top of the shark's broad head. He felt the rubbery solidity as the club came down, but he felt the rigidity of the bone, too. And he struck the shark once more hard across the point of the nose as he slid down from the fish. The other shark had been in and out and now came in again with jaws wide. The old man could see pieces of the meat of the fish spilling white from the corner of his jaws as he bumped the fish and closed his jaws. He swung at him and hit only the head, and the shark looked at him and wrenched the meat loose. The old man swung the club down again on him, and as he slipped away to swallow and hit only the heavy, solid rubberiness. Come on, Galano, the old man said. Come in again. The shark came in a rush, and the old man hit him as he shut his jaws. He hit him solidly and from as high up as he could raise the club. This time he felt the bone at the base of the brain and hit him again in the same place while the shark tore the meat loose sluggishly and slid down from the fish. The old man watched for him to come again, but neither shark showed. Then he saw one on the surface swimming in circles. He did not see the fin of the other. I could not expect to kill them, he thought. I could have in my time, but I have hurt them both badly, and neither one can feel very good. If I could have used a bat with two hands, I might have killed the first one, surely. Even now, he thought. He did not want to look at the fish. He knew that half of him had been destroyed. The sun had gone down while he had been in the fight with the sharks. It will be dark soon, he said. Then I should see the glow of Havana. If I am too far eastward, I will see the lights of some of the new beaches. I cannot be too far out, he thought. I hope no one has been too worried. There is only the boy to worry, of course, but I'm sure he would have confidence. Many of the older fishermen will worry. Many others too, he thought. I live in a good town. He could not talk to the fish anymore because the fish had been ruined so badly. Then something came into his head. Half fish, he said, fish that you were. I'm sorry that I went out too far. I'm sorry I ruined us both. But we have killed many sharks, you and I, and ruined many others. How many did you ever kill, old fish? You do not have that spear on your head for nothing." He liked to think of the fish and what he could do if he were a shark swimming free. I should have chopped the bill off to fight with them, he thought, but there was no hatchet, and then there was no knife. But if I had, and could have lashed it to an oar butt, what a weapon. Then he might have fought them together. What will you do now if they come in the night? What can you do? Fight them, he said. I'll fight them until I die. But in the dark now, and no glow showing, and no lights, the only wind and the steady pull of the sail, he felt that perhaps he was already dead. He put his two hands together and felt the palms. They were not dead, and he could bring the pain to life by simply opening and closing them. He leaned his back against the stern and knew he was not dead. His shoulders told him. I have all those prayers I promised if I caught the fish, he thought, but I am too tired to say them now. I better get the sack and put it over my shoulders. He lay in the stern and steered and watched for the glow to come to the sky. I have half of him, he thought. Maybe I'll have the luck to bring the forward half in. I should have some luck. No, he said, you violated your luck when you went too far outside. Don't be silly, he said aloud, and keep awake and steer. You have much luck yet. I'd like to buy some if there's any place they sell it, he said. What could I buy it with? He asked himself, could I buy it with a lost harpoon and a broken knife and two bad hands? You might, he said. You tried to buy it with 84 days at sea. That nearly sold it to you. I must not think nonsense, he thought. Luck is a thing that comes in many forms, and who can recognize her? I would take some, though, in any form and pay what they ask. I wish I could see the glow from the lights, he thought. I wish too many things. But that is the thing I wish for now. He tried to settle more comfortably to steer, and from his pain, he knew he was not dead. He saw the reflected glare of the lights of the city at what must have been around 10 o'clock at night. They were only perceptible at first as the light is in the sky before the moon rises. Then they were steady to see across the ocean, which was rough now with increasing breeze. He steered inside of the glow, and he thought that now, soon, he must hit the edge of the stream. Now it is over, he thought. They will probably hit me again. But what can a man do against them in the dark without a weapon? He was stiff and sore now, and his wounds and all of the strained parts of his body hurt with the cold of the night. I hope I do not have to fight again, he thought. I hope so much I do not have to fight again. But by midnight he fought, and this time he knew the fight was useless. They came in a pack, and he could only see the lines in the water that their fins made, and their phosphorescence as they threw themselves on the fish. He clubbed at heads and heard the jaws chomp and the shaking of the skiff as they took hold below. He clubbed desperately at what he could only feel and hear, and he felt something seize the club, and it was gone. He jerked the tiller free from the rudder and beat and chopped with it, holding it in both hands and driving it down again and again. But they were up to the bow now, driving in one another, one after the other, and together tearing off the pieces of the meat that showed glowing below the sea as they turned to come once more. One came, finally, against the head itself, and he knew it was over. He swung the tiller across the shark's head where the jaws were caught in the heaviest of the fish's head, which would not tear. He swung it once, twice, and again. He heard the tiller break, and he lunged at the shark with the splintered butt. He felt it go in, and knowing it was sharp, he drove it again. The shark let go and rolled away. That was the last shark of that pack that came. There was nothing more for them to eat. The old man could hardly breathe now, and he felt a strange taste in his mouth. It was coppery and sweet, and he was afraid of it for a moment, but there was not much of it. He spat into the ocean and said, "Eat that, Galanos, and make a dream you've killed a man." And he knew he was beaten now finally, and without remedy, he went back to the stern and found the jagged end of the tiller would fit in the slot of the rudder well enough for him to steer. He settled the sack around his shoulders and put the skiff on her course. He sailed lightly now and had no thoughts nor feelings of any kind. He was past everything now, and he sailed the skiff to make his home port as well and as intelligently as he could. In the night, sharks hid across the carcass as someone might pick up crumbs from the table. The old man paid no attention to them and did not pay any attention to anything except steering. He only noticed how lightly and how well the skiff sailed now that there was no great weight beside her. She's good, he thought. She is sound and not harmed in any way except for the tiller. That is easily replaced. He could feel he was inside the current now, and he could see the lights of the beach colonies along the shore. He knew where he was, and it was nothing to get home. The wind is our friend anyway, he thought. Then he added, sometimes. And the great sea with our friends and our enemies. And bed, he thought. Bed is my friend. Just bed, he thought. Bed will be a great thing. It is easy when you are beaten, he thought. I never knew how easy it was. And what beat you, he thought. Nothing, he said aloud. I went out too far. When he sailed into the little harbor, the lights of the terrace were out, and he knew everyone was in bed. The breeze had risen steadily and was blowing strongly now. It was quiet in the harbor, though, and he sailed up into the little patch of shingle below the rocks. There was no one to help him, so he pulled the boat up as far as he could. Then he stepped out and made her fast to a rock. He unstepped the mast and furled the sail and tied it. Then he shuttered the mast and started to climb. It was then he knew the depth of his tiredness. He stopped for a moment and looked back and saw the reflection from the street light, the great tail of the fish standing up well behind the stiff stern. He saw the white naked line of his backbone and the dark mass of his head with the projecting bill and all the nakedness in between. He started to climb again, and at the top he fell and lay for some time with the mast across his shoulder. He tried to get up, but it was too difficult, and he sat there with the mast on his shoulder and looked at the road. A cat passed on the far side, going about its business, and the old man watched it. Then he just watched the road. Finally, he put the mast down and stood up. He picked up the mast and put it on his shoulder and started up the road. He had to sit down 5 times before he reached his shack. Inside the shack, he leaned the mast against the wall. In the dark, he found a water bottle and took a drink. Then he lay down on the bed. He pulled the blanket over his shoulders and then over his back and legs. He slept face down on the newspapers with his arms out straight and the palms of his hands up. He was asleep when the boy looked in the door in the morning. It was blowing so hard that the drifting boats would not be out today, and the boy had slept late and then come to the old man's shack as he had come each morning. The boy saw the old man was breathing, and then he saw the old man's hands, and he started to cry. He went out very quietly to go bring some coffee, and all the way down the road, he was crying. Many fishermen were around the skiff looking at what was lashed beside it. One was in the water, his trousers rolled up, measuring the skeleton with the length of a line. The boy did not go down. He had been there before, and one of the fishermen was looking after the skiff for him. "How is he?" one of the fishermen shouted. "Sleeping," the boy called. He did not care that they saw him crying. Let no one disturb him. "He was 18 feet from nose to tail," the fisherman who was measuring him called. "I believe it," the boy said. He went into the terrace and asked for a can of coffee, hot and with plenty of milk and sugar in it. "Anything more?" "No, afterwards I will see what he can eat." "What a fish it was," the proprietor said. "There has never been such a fish. Those were 2 fine fish you took yesterday, too." "Damn my fish," the boy said, and he started to cry again. "Do you want a drink of any kind?" the proprietor asked. "No," said the boy. "Tell him not to bother Santiago. I'll be back." "Tell him how sorry I am." "Thanks," the boy said. The boy carried the hot can of coffee up to the old man's shack and sat by him until he woke. Once again, it looked as though he were waking, but he had gone back into a heavy sleep, and the boy had gone across the road to borrow some wood to heat the coffee. Finally, the old man woke. "Don't sit up," the boy said. "Drink this." He poured some coffee in a glass. The old man took it and drank it. They beat me, Manolin," he said. "They truly beat me." "He didn't beat you, not the fish." "No, truly, it was afterwards." "Pedrico is looking after the skiff and the gear. What do you want done with the head?" "Let Pedrico chop it up and use in his fish traps." "And the spear?" "You keep it if you want it." "I want it," the boy said. "Now we must make our plans about the other things." "Did they search for me?" "Of course, with Coast Guard and with planes." "The ocean is very big and a skiff is small and hard to see," the old man said. He noticed how pleasant it was to have someone to talk to instead of speaking only to himself and to the sea. "I miss you," he said. "What did you catch?" "On the first day." "On the second and the 2 and the 3rd. "Very good. Now we fish together again." "No, I am not lucky. I am not lucky any more." "The hell with luck," the boy said. "I'll bring the luck with me." "What will your family say?" "I do not care. I caught 2 yesterday. But we will fish together now, for I still have much to learn. We must get a good killing lance and always have it on board. You can make the blade from a spring leaf from an old Ford. We can grind it into guan boca. It should be sharp and not tempered so it will not break. My knife broke. I'll get another knife and have the spring ground. How many days of heavy brisa have we?" "Maybe 3, maybe more." "I will have everything in order," the boy said. "You get your hands well, old man. I know how to care for them. In the night I spat something strange and felt something in my chest was broken." "Get that well too," the boy said. "Lie down, old man, and I will bring you your clean shirt and something to eat." "Bring any of the papers of the time that I was gone," the old man said. "You must get well fast, for there is much I can learn and you can teach me anything." "How much did you suffer?" "Plenty," the old man said. "I'll bring the food and the papers," the boy said. "Rest well, old man. I will bring stuff from the drugstore for your hands. Don't forget to tell Pedrico the head is his." "No, I will remember." As the boy went out the door and down the worn Coral Rock road, he was crying again. That afternoon, there was a party of tourists at the terrace, and looking down in the water among the empty beer cans and dead barracudas, a woman saw a great long white spine and a huge tail at the end of what lifted and swung with the tide, while the east wind blew a heavy, steady sea out to the entrance of the harbor. What's that? She asked a waiter, pointed to the long backbone of the great fish that was now just garbage, waiting to go out with the tide. Tiburon, the waiter said, is shark. He was meaning to explain what had happened. I didn't know sharks had such handsome, beautifully formed tails. I didn't either, her male companion said. Up the road in his shack, the old man was sleeping again. He was sleeping on his face, and the boy was sitting by him watching him. The old man was dreaming about the lions. The end.